Excuse me as I adjust my underwear. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 42 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. I'm your host Kristen, and I'm here to talk to you about what else? Knitting. I'll also be talking about all things knitting related and yarn related, and maybe not so yarn and knitting related. So if you don't know me already, my name is Kristen Janik. I'm a semi-retired knitting pattern designer, a knitting instructor, and an all-around knitting enthusiast. I live in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C. with my husband and two little boys, JJ, who is 8, and Ollie, who is almost 7. And when I'm not knitting, you can find me vegetable gardening, watching Orioles baseball, drinking wine, but it's mostly about the knitting, so let's go ahead and start talking about it. All right, I don't have any knitwear that I'm wearing today to show you because it's summer in Maryland, but I got a haircut. So I'll talk about that for a few minutes. After more than a year of very sporadic pandemic hair care, my hair was not looking so good. And it's generally hard to keep hair healthy when it's long. So I decided this past 2 weeks ago when I went in to get it colored that I would just get it chopped off. So I am very happy with it so far. I am still learning to style it. So this is waves put in with the flat iron. And it seems to be holding a little better than when I did with the curling iron, but not much. So I'm still practicing and figuring out how to style it, but I do like the sort of messy waves look. It is an asymmetric bob, so it is longer in the front and shorter in the back. I actually have so much hair that just the bottom layer I'm flat ironing straight before I try to style it. So since I already had the flat iron on to straighten the bottom layer, I decided to try using it for curls instead. Still not sure how I feel about it. We'll see, like I said, how long this lasts. This is on a fresh hair wash though, so I don't expect it to last too long. I inherited a new curling iron from my sister that I actually gave her for Christmas a couple years ago that apparently didn't work for her. It has interchangeable barrels, so there are a couple different barrel sizes, and then it has sort of like the traditional clamp, and then it has a couple that are just where you wrap around. And I like the way that looks, but it doesn't seem to hold very long, and I'm not sure if maybe it's because it's not the sort of whatever it's called, fancy ceramic barrel, like that's the plates on the straight iron are ceramic or tourmaline or something. It's supposed to be good for your hair or whatever. This is not, so maybe that's it. I don't know. My hair has never held curl very well, but I thought that since it's not so long with all the extra weight pulling it down, that maybe I'd have better luck with the curl. So we'll see. My head is much cooler. It's very nice. I'm still not used to having to use like a third as much shampoo and conditioner in the shower, so I keep wasting some of it, which is unfortunate. But overall, I'm happy with it. It's going to be really nice and cool for the summer. Let's see how short it is in the back. Whether I will keep it beyond the summer, I doubt it, because I will start getting very annoyed that it takes so much work. But we'll see. So no knitwear to show, but hairwear. As usual, I don't have nearly as much on and off the needles as I would like. I haven't finished anything new. I don't think I've cast on anything new either, so that's something. I have made some progress. I've made the most progress on the super secret test knit that I can't really show you, but you can see just a little bit of the fabric. That is on Sleeve Island now. We need to get that done. And then I've made some more progress, a bit, on my Ridgeview tee. I don't remember what it looked like last time, to be honest, but I've just got a little bit more for the little cap sleeves. I don't even remember where I left off here. I think, yeah, I had just worked, and I need to work only, I think, 4 increases on each side for the sleeves, and I've worked 2, but there's a good inch and a half between increases, so lots more work to be done on this. And the project that I was putting the most time into, which ultimately was a bit of a waste, was my new version of the Déjalo shawlette in my big Riften gradient from Jill Draper Make Stuff. I think that's it. And I say a waste of time because by the time this is published and you're watching it, I will have published the newly released pattern, and this is not done. As you can see, I did reach the middle point and start on the opposite side. I had some difficulties. This is my own pattern, of course, so I shouldn't be having any difficulties, but I miscounted a row repeat somewhere along the way, so my yarn overs were off for the drop stitches, so I had to go back and fix that so they would all eventually unravel to the yarn overs, which is what makes them unravel and then stop. It was off. One was off. It didn't have enough stitches in between. It was supposed to be 3 stitches in between the yarn overs, and one only had 2 in between. And now, because of that, my yarn overs on the opposite side, they are lining up for the first bit, and then right here you can see maybe that they stop lining up, and now there's a stitch in between them. And if this for a personal project, I really wouldn't care, but to use for a sample for a pattern, I want to make sure that it's accurately reflecting what the pattern is supposed to do, which is to line up the yarn overs. So because this is a nice rustic yarn, the yarn overs aren't unraveling super quickly on their own. I'm unraveling them, so I unraveled one all the way down to the end. I unraveled 2 all the way down to the end, you can see. But once I realized that my yarn overs stopped lining up on opposite sides, I stopped putting any effort into it. I do want to finish it eventually, hopefully for the fall, but it's just not worth rushing to get it done now, because I'm not going to use it for the pattern, and I have other things that I would like to get done. So I'm really happy with the way I managed the yarn here. So when I got to this part, I kind of stopped about midway through and started working from the opposite end of the cake, so that I've got this like brown transition into yellow, transition into light brown, then I'm popping back to yellow, and it's going to transition the opposite direction. So that I'm really happy with. But, oh, sorry, my neighbors are being very loud today. It's the last day of school, so that's why. Talk about that more later. But, so yeah, that's a little frustrating, but it is what it is. What are you gonna do? So we're gonna get around to finishing it eventually. As you know, I've got my Finish Fix frog this year, so I really don't want to have any whips left on the needles at the end of the year, and that includes this, and it will be nice for the fall. But I'm just gonna put it on hold for now because it's not a rush. I might take it with me on vacation next week, because that's going to be a good kind of vacation knit where I don't need to pay much attention to the pattern. Other than that, as I said, I haven't started anything new. I haven't finished anything. I really have not been paying attention at all to my Going Steady cardigan. That's also definitely coming with me on vacation because that needs to, we've got about a month until I want to republish that. So I gotta get that moving. Other than that, I have made some progress on one of my Finish Fix frog projects. So if you want to see more about that, you can check out the latest Finish Fix frog vlog. And I'll put a little linky right here, or maybe it's here. I'm pretty sure it's over here though. And you can see that. Just as a reminder, the Finish Fix frog vlogs are chronicling my journey to finish, fix, or frog all of my existing whips in 2021, and they are much shorter than the podcast, 10-15 minutes. So if you prefer bite-size videos, that is the way to go. And that's all I had to show you on and off the needles in this episode. All right, pattern drop. The Déjalo shawlette has been re-released. So you can see the two versions of it behind me. This one is fingering weight. It uses one, I believe it's a cake of Knit Pick Stroll Gradient, the whole cake. And this one uses 2 balls of Knit Picks Chroma Twist Worsted. Let me go ahead and pop some of the official photos in here. All right, so this pattern is now available as an indie download. You no longer have to get it directly from Knit Picks, and it has now been rewritten for any weight yarn. About 400 yards, no matter what size, no matter what weight yarn you're using. But obviously, depending on what weight you're using, 400 yards is going to get you a very different shawl. So this one is pretty small, like a shawlette. This one is monstrous. As you can see, I've got it kind of draped up here like a little summer top. I can put it over my shoulders, wrap it all the way around, tie it behind my waist, and I've still got a good foot of each end hanging down. So if you want a big, monstrous shawl, 400 yards of the worsted weight is the way to go. If you want something a little light and summery, 400 yards of the fingering. And of course, you can always use more than 400 yards. So you can use any kind of yarn with this you like. It is just a simple drop stitch pattern, worked side to side. There are still cicadas, and that is what I'm looking at. But I have specifically designed it to work with gradient yarns. The Knit Pick Stroll Gradient, I would actually call more of a self-striping. As you can see, those transitions aren't very smooth. But the Chroma Twist Worsted is definitely more of a gradient. And I'm under cicada attack. They're leaving. I know that they're leaving. They're getting quieter. I'm seeing a lot more of them dead on the ground, but they're still here. And my son, the little one, has decided that they're toys. So he already created, and we threw away, one collection of dead cicadas on my patio table. And we threw it away because we're having a barbecue, not because we're mean. And he has since created a new collection of 10, 12 dead cicadas that he puts them on his tray. It's really gross. Anyway, no more about cicadas. The trick with the gradient yarn is that you're basically going to work inward to the middle point of the shawl And then you're going to switch and work from the opposite end of your ball of yarn, or if you're using two separate, like the chroma twist worsted, you're going to either, if you pulled from the inside before, you're going to pull from the outside so that it fades back in the other direction. It's probably not going to be 100%. This is not 100% like perfect gradient, but it's going to look very smooth, and you know, the colors are going to wave gently from one color to the other. You could definitely use self-striping, a solid, a variegated, pretty much anything, because with a simple drop stitch pattern, there's not really a major stitch pattern that you're going to interfere with. You're working side to side, so basically you're going to make it half as long as you want and then switch to the other half. So by long, I mean from side to side, so half as wide ultimately as you want. And then while you're knitting, it's going to look relatively shallow because you won't have dropped the stitches yet. Once you drop the stitches, it's going to start opening up, and then you can block it really big. This one is sort of blocked a little bit more modestly, and I blocked this one very big. So this one I actually had to fold in half to fit on a full-size bed, which is where I usually do my blocking, you know, like a real professional. So I had to fold it in half just to fit on the length of a full-size bed. And then I ran a blocking wire sort of along that center spine in between the two halves to stretch it out, and then just stretch the opposite direction. So this pattern is now available in my Ravelry shop, and it's also available in my Payhip shop. And at some point I will get in touch with KnitPicks and give them an updated pattern so it can be available directly from them as well. Again, it is called the Déjalo shawlette. You will find a link in the description box down below and in the show notes as well. I have a little bit of stash flash for you in this episode, and it is actually both yarns for designs which I'm not supposed to be doing anymore. So the first one, I had mentioned in a previous episode, I had submitted a design for a collection, and they came back to me and said, well, it doesn't really fit in our collection, but we would like to offer you yarn support. So I did it around and eventually said, well, free yarn, why not? So I got the yarn in the mail. This is Hudson & West Forge, which is their worsted weight, and this colorway is Gold Leaf, I want to say. Yes, Gold Leaf. So this is their merino wool Corriedale blend, I believe. And this is a nice hefty worsted. So I did want to show you guys the swatch. This is looking a little greener on here than it is in real life. It definitely has a green hue, but it is tinged more gold. So I knit up a swatch. I'm kind of undecided on this. I think this is a little thicker than I want the fabric to be for the project, but this is already on US 8, and I really hate knitting on needles bigger than a US 8. And it is a pretty big, hefty side-to-side sweater. So I don't know, maybe, we'll see. I'm still thinking about it. If I really, it just is not quite, I mean, I don't want it to be super drapey, but I'm concerned that this is maybe not quite fluid enough. I do want this to be a nice hefty sweater. But the yarn is really delightful to work with. I've not used this yarn before. It is sort of a slight bit of a rustic yarn. Let's see what the label says. All right, so here it is, all spun up. No, all skeined up. And you can see in here almost like a slight thick and thin quality to it in some parts. So 70% merino, 30% Corriedale, and the recommended gauge is 18 to 20 stitches per inch, which I have not actually measured the gauge on this, but I think this is probably around the 18. I can't really imagine it at 20, but then again, like I said, I didn't count, so this could be 20, but my best judgment tells me 18. Even in here, you can see a little bit of unevenness in the stitches just from that rustic yarn, and that is perfectly fine for the project that I'm going to be doing with this. And I really love the color, the way the yarns have taken the color in here. So you can definitely see some darker and some lighter. So this is really beautiful. Let's see, is there anything else to tell you about it? Sourced in New Mexico, Colorado, and New York. So it is spun in Greenwich, New York, and dyed in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. So like I said, I haven't had a chance to work with this before. The yarn is really soft, but it's got that Corriedale gives it just a little bit more sturdiness and rusticness. So I think this is going to be great for the project. Just sort of dithering a little bit on gauge, but this is something that I have slated for October, Rhinebeck-ish time, so no rush. And then the other one is actually a bear yarn. Ooh, let's try it over here. There we go. Sort of. It's a bear yarn. It's white. This is Knit Picks Bear Woolen. I am going to be doing a project for them for spring 2022. And right now this only comes as a bear yarn. The person I was talking with said maybe they will have some colors by the time this pattern would be released. So, just really prepared. So, woolen cotton. It's a DK weight yarn that is a 50-50 merino wool and Pima cotton blend. Obviously this is a bear yarn, so I don't really have anything to say about the color. I don't know how it would take color. I am vaguely considering dyeing the bear yarn. Look, you can see my hair falling out as I'm talking. Anyway, I'm not a dyeing expert by any means, but I'm vaguely considering giving it a shot to dye the yarn because Knit Picks will make their own sample. I don't have to make a sample. I need to make a sample to create the pattern, although sometimes I don't even need to actually finish the sample to do that, which sometimes is nice, but I don't have to give them the sample to use for photography or anything. So if I decide to dye the yarn and it looks stupid, it doesn't matter because it's not, I don't have to ever photograph it. I might want to, but I don't have to. So I'm kind of toying with that idea, but I know, like I said, I don't know much about dyeing yarn. And JJ. I don't know much about dyeing yarn, but I do know that the wool and the cotton will take the dye differently. I'm not sure I wanted to get into all that mess. But on the other hand, I have an 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old boy, and a white t-shirt is a terrible idea. So I've got that yarn, wound it up. I need to start working with that. I need to really get moving on that because the pattern is due next month. But as I said, I don't have to complete the sample for them. I just have to work through enough to make the pattern that may or may not end up being the whole thing. I'd like it to be. It's a design that I think is really cute and I'm happy with, but I certainly don't have to have the whole thing finished by next month, just enough to make the pattern, get the math and all of that important stuff. So teensy bit of yarn, both for design projects. I haven't gotten anything else. I did have a cart full of yarn for the possible reimagining of the sound side pullover as a cardigan, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it. Excuse me as I adjust my underwear. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. I'm still really undecided on that, and it's not really any rush. But you know, to be honest, I have a translation client that is late in paying me, and I kind of am waiting on that to maybe decide if I'm going to go forward with that or not. So that is the only yarn I was kind of shopping for, and I did not go ahead and buy it. Maybe by the next episode, we shall see. But that is the stash flash I have to show you this time. News and events. I do have a little bit of news, and then I'm going to give you guys a recap of teaching at Vogue Knitting Live. So in terms of news, enrollment is now open for Sweater Siren, which is my 4-week e-course all about sweater knitting. This is a great program for people who are not necessarily new knitters, but are newer sweater knitters or experienced sweater knitters who have been frustrated with knitting sweaters. So over the course of 4 weeks, we go through how to care for and maintain your sweaters, how to pick sweater size, how to, modify sweaters, and then at the very end get into a little bit of math for sweaters and sort of jumping off points for designing your own sweater. And then the course wraps up and I go on vacation for a week. And when we come back, we have the annual Medio Peruana Knits Sweater Along. If you enroll in Sweater Siren, you will get a code for a pattern from my shop included with your enrollment fee. If you do not enroll, you can still participate in the Sweater Along, but no complimentary pattern. So, and while for everyone it's a Sweater Along, for students in Sweater Siren, there will be some opportunities for talking to your fellow students and to me during the Sweater Along, getting help with anything that you need in the pattern, things like that. So I will include a link in the description box down below, as well as in the show notes, and you can find all of this great stuff about Sweater Siren at medioperuana.com/Sweater Siren. The class itself starts on July 5th. It is somewhat self-paced in that your lessons will arrive every week and you can work through them however you want during the week. And you don't even have to do that. You could just wait until you get everything at the very end and then go through it on your own. But the weekly Zoom live chat is only once a week during the class, and then when the class is over, that's over. And there's some other fun stuff going on, some bonuses, a chance for individual consultation, all of that good stuff. Like I said, this is great for both newer sweater knitters and experienced sweater knitters who maybe have hit some stumbling blocks with their sweater knitting and would like a little bit more guidance. So links all over the place, in the description box, running across the screen, in the show notes. I hope to see you there. And speaking of sweaters, if you appreciate that segue, I taught 2 classes at Vogue Knitting Live June, including my Sweater Jumpstart, which is sort of a very brief 2-hour version of some of the key elements of the Sweater Siren e-course. And I also taught the S4 and swatch, which is sort of the same deal, an abbreviated 2-hour hit the highlights version of my 4-week Swatch Mastery course. So of course, Vogue Knitting Live is not currently live. It is currently virtual. I have no idea when that might be changing. So I taught both of these classes via Zoom. I had a great experience. I did not have any technical difficulties. That was wonderful. So when you have technical difficulties kind of working from home, there's kind of no one you can immediately grab and say, fix this. And students were participatory, some, and asking good questions and had nice things to say. It seemed to learn a lot from the classes. So overall, I think it was a win. I was very nervous to get started, but sort of once I started talking, especially about swatching, which of course is the hill I'm going to die on, things went very smoothly. And I gotta say that I really nailed the timing. It's tricky to figure out how long you're supposed to talk and how much time you should leave for maybe people are going to have questions, or they're going to want you to repeat something, or you're just kind of guessing. Especially doing this kind of Zoom thing, because it's not the same as doing it live. So I really wasn't sure about that. I was trying to practice and run about an hour and a half, which would give me another 30 minutes that might need to review things or go over questions and things. And really both of them were like spot on right up until the end, and wrapped up nice and neatly. I didn't have to rush, and I didn't have to fill up a bunch of extra space because I didn't have enough to talk about. So it was a really good experience. I'm really hoping that when Vogue Knitting Live is live again, maybe I'll get the opportunity to teach there as well. But it was definitely new. I mean, I do my e-courses and they do have the Zoom component, but it's not quite the same. So it was definitely a new experience. And I think I still prefer kind of teaching live. There's more, you just get a little bit more feedback from people, and you can kind of see their faces and see whether they're taking things in. You can see whether they're bored. You can gauge things better. Now when you're teaching on Zoom, there's an opportunity to see faces, but nobody's required to turn their camera on. And especially for my Sunday class, both classes were, I'm trying to think, I think the Friday class was 15 or 16 people, and the Sunday was maybe about 12 people, I think. And for both of them, I would say at least half the class didn't have cameras on, which is fine. I definitely understand that not everybody is comfortable in front of the camera, because it can really feel like everyone's just staring at you. I don't particularly enjoy it either, but it also just makes teaching a little bit more difficult, because you really depend on some of the nonverbal feedback you're getting from your students. If you can see their faces and see their expressions, and see whether they're getting frustrated or things like that. And you really can't do that. And even on Zoom, it's hard to do that, because you've got 12 little cubes kind of staring at you, and you're trying to read your text and demonstrate the thing on the camera. And at any rate, it was definitely an interesting experience. I hope to do it again in the future. I hope to maybe be offering some new classes in the future. I need to spend some time developing. I have an idea for a shawl class. Sometimes it just seems like, how are they doing these so often? Because it kind of seems like everything's been covered, but people are always coming up with new takes on things, and that's kind of something I need to dig into a little bit more. Just putting your own spin on things. But if you have not checked out Vogue Knitting Live, it is virtual again in July, and then I think they're taking a break in August. So I would definitely check that out. It's a good deal. You get, they have a bunch of different packages where you get, a class and a lecture and a marketplace ticket, or 2 classes and a market, things like that. And I think it's a pretty good deal. I had actually taken a class the month before on fixing mistakes in brioche, which I think was helpful not only for brioche, but also to get an idea of how their virtual classes were going to work. So definitely check that out if you have some time in July. It's sometime around mid-July. And again, it's completely online, so it doesn't matter where you live. Also in the realm of teaching, I wanted to let you guys know that I have a new tutorial here on the YouTube channel on spit splicing. Doesn't that sound so pretty? So if you are looking for a quick way to join non-superwash wool yarns, this is a great, easy join for yarns that really helps cut down on the number of ends you have to weave in, and it is basically just joining the two ends of yarn with water, not spit, and felting them together so that they stick, and then you just continue from one ball of yarn to the other. It only works on non-superwash wool. But if that sounds like something you were interested in, I will include the link here so you can check that out. So that's about all I have for news and events in this episode. Just a quick bit of chatter, I think, to wrap up this episode. By the time you are watching this, I am going to be on vacation. So I am recording this on Wednesday, June 16th, and it will go live on the last Friday in June, the 25th, I think, and I will be on vacation then. Last summer, we go as a family, so with my dad and my sister, every year to the Outer Banks, which is about a 6-hour drive for us. And we had talked about maybe this year going for 2 weeks, because it is such a long drive, to make it a little bit more worthwhile. But pretty much everyone was like, not me, because I work at home with knitting and translation. I can take them anywhere. Pretty much everyone was like, I don't think I can swing 2 weeks off in a row. So what we decided to do was to take 2 vacations. So in the later part of the summer, the kind of last days of July and the first week of August, we will go to the Outer Banks. And this week, while you are watching this, we are at Deep Creek Lake in Maryland. So this is much, much closer to home. It's about 2.5 hours from where we live. It is a lake. Deep Creek is a man-made lake in Maryland. In the winter, they have skiing. I don't ski. And in the summer, they have fishing and swimming, zip lining, hiking, things like that. Now, I have really got my fingers crossed that there are no cicadas. One, because they should be almost gone. They only hang around for about 6 weeks. And 2, because I was looking at the Brood-X cicada map, which are cicadas, and basically all of Western Maryland says nothing. I don't know why that would be, but I think it would be delightful. So I have been actually checking kind of local news reports and seeing lots of, hey, no cicadas here, weird, huh? So if there aren't any cicadas, I will be overjoyed. The weather is not supposed to be actually super summer swimming weather while we're there. Again, I am perfectly fine with that because it will be wonderful for hikes, for making s'mores in the fire pit, for fishing, which I don't do, but I think my dad would like to do with my kids. Just relaxing, and if there are no cicadas, sitting outside and just chilling. So we are spending the week out there in Deep Creek. We actually got an extra day. They called me a couple weeks ago and said, because we are renting Sunday to Sunday, and we got a call saying the owner, the previous people are renting like Friday to Friday, so there's just this Saturday sitting there, and they said you can have it for half price. I said, okay. So we will be arriving on Saturday. Sunday is Father's Day. We're looking into getting steamed crabs, which is what we usually do for Father's Day. And hopefully I will come back somewhat tan and nice and relaxed. So that is basically what is going on around here. The kids finished school. Of course, Ollie was homeschooled this year, so I finished school, and I am so thankful. I am very happy to have done what is best for him this past year so he could learn, but I am also really looking forward to him going back into in-person school in the fall. And today, JJ was in school, but in virtual school, and today was his last day, so we got to drive by his school, and he got to get a hug from his teacher with masks on. She's actually been his teacher for first and second grade. She was a first grade teacher, and then they moved her to second grade this year, and she was able to take all of her first grade students with her to second grade. So JJ's had her for 2 years. I don't know what he's going to do next year when he has to have a new teacher, but I'm sure he'll do fine. Everyone loves him. So summer vacation is officially here. And once these cicadas leave, I will really, I think, be enjoying it. I guess that's about it. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 42 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. I hope you enjoyed watching the curls slowly fall out of my hair over the last 40 minutes or so. Everything that I have talked about, you can find links to in the show notes at mediaperuana.com/Hilo-Stitch. Special thank you to my Patreon patrons for supporting the podcast and the entire Media Peruana Knits YouTube channel. If you are interested in supporting the podcast and getting some perks and freebies and behind the scenes goodies, you can find more information at patreon.com/mediaperuana. Here on YouTube, if you would please subscribe, hit that little bell so you'll be notified about new content. Like, comment, share, all of that stuff helps expand the reach of the podcast and the entire channel, and I will greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you next time.